As undeniably majestic as the Hawaiian Islands are, there is one equally undeniable trade-off. Hawaii is extremely expensive. Everything from airfare and accommodations to everyday expenses like food and gas tend to be a little tough on the wallet. Acai bowls on the North Shore, predictably really expensive. It was $30 for 2 bowls. There are a few factors behind the price premiums, but perhaps the biggest reason is the logistics behind supplying a chain of islands thousands of miles away from the mainland. So in other words, the expensive prices are very hard to avoid while visiting Hawaii. The good news is that there are a handful of very affordable activities on the island of Oahu that can help offset the inevitable expenditures of a trip to Hawaii. Here are the 10 most affordable activities that we found. Number 1 is the hiking trails. This is a great way to fill up your day with a really enjoyable activity without breaking the bank. Most of these hiking trails are free. There are a few, I think Diamond Head is one of them, where you have to pay for parking. It's going to be probably $10 or $15 per parking, but besides that, it is free. It's also important to look ahead to see if you have to reserve, because some of those that are a little bit more popular, they have to kind of space out how many people are on the trail, so you do have to reserve a certain time to go. But considering how jaw-dropping a lot of the views that you'll get on these trails are, it's absolutely amazing that some of these are free. In particular, the Lighthouse Trail on the east side of the island, it's a great place for whale watching. You can go there, parking is free, the trail itself is free, and you can be on a perfect perch to overlook the ocean and find those whales if it is whale season and they are around. It's absolutely amazing that that's a free activity. So if you are looking for something to do during the day, but you're not wanting to break the bank, the hiking trails are a great way to do that. Another affordable activity that is absolutely incredible on the island of Oahu is Hanauma Bay. This is a preserve where you can snorkel and see an incredible array of tropical fish. This isn't free, but it is only $20 per person, and considering how amazing the snorkeling is, that is pretty awesome. The other plus is because you do have to reserve a time and pay just a little bit of money for it, it's not as crowded as it probably would be otherwise. With that said, it can get very crowded in the middle of the day, so if you can get those reservations earlier in the morning, it's definitely going to be a better experience and you're probably going to see more fish as well. One thing to mention about Hanauma Bay, it's really important not to wear any sunscreen with oxybenzone in it. That can be really bad for the reef. And unfortunately that has happened over the past few decades with a lot of tourists going in with sunscreen on their skin. So that's always important to make sure that it's natural sunscreen if you are wearing sunscreen. And you probably are gonna want it because if you are out during the middle of the day especially, it can be very high UV and sunburns are a good way to ruin your vacation. Number 3 on the list is the USS Arizona Memorial at Pearl Harbor. This is actually only $1 to reserve online, and considering the historical significance of that place, it's absolutely unbelievable that it is that affordable to go. And I definitely recommend it. It's very emotional, very powerful. What happened there was so heartbreaking, but it changed the course of human history, and it is pretty special to be able to go to the exact place where that event happened. There are a few other things to check out besides the memorial itself, but some of those do cost extra. But it's really fascinating history and definitely something worth checking out if you're visiting the island of Oahu. Moving on to number 4 on the list of affordable things to do on the island of Oahu, the Botanical Gardens. There is a name for them, but I am not even going to try to pronounce it. It's in the native Hawaiian language and I have no idea how it's actually pronounced. But these gardens are so spectacular. There's just a wide array of plant life that you can check out. Because the islands are tropical, there's a lot of things that grow, and especially with the rainfall in the middle of the island, it is so green. It's amazing just the shades of green that you can see as you're walking around the gardens and the park that's adjacent to it. We also found a really cool lookout point if you do drive just a little bit up the road, and you can see the mountains with the ridges and just how green they are, how lush they are. It's really, really beautiful and a great vantage point for that part of the island. When you drive into the Botanical Gardens, they will ask you if you're a visitor or if you're a resident, but you do not have to pay anything to go into the gardens. Number 5 on the list, the Byodo-in Japanese Buddhist Temple. This is a really special thing because it's actually a full-scale replica of a temple that's in Kyoto, Japan. And everything from the trees that are planted around it to the mountains in the background looks very, very similar to the original temple. It's something that's pretty special. It feels like you're actually in Japan when you're in this area around the temple and then going into the temple itself. There is a small fee to go in. I believe it's $5 a person, but considering a lot of the other activities on the island, it is a very, very affordable thing to do. It's not too far away from the botanical gardens if you're over in that area. Number 6 on the list, something that is completely free to do besides the gas it costs to get up there, going up to the North Shore and checking out the surfers, because this is one of the best areas to surf in the entire world. Bonsai Beach and Sunset Beach on the North Shore. There's something called the Bonsai Pipeline, which I don't fully understand the mechanics of, but I guess it's a reef break that creates these massive waves that are perfect for surfing. Unfortunately, when we went up there, it wasn't the best conditions, so we didn't really see a lot of surfing. But if you're there in the winter time, February, March, it is one of the best times to see surfers out on the waves. And there's also some tournaments and some competitions that they do on the North Shore, so it's definitely one of the best places to surf in the world. If you are a surfer yourself, even better. That's something to do that is not going to cost you anything. Just bring your surfboard up there. Parking is usually pretty not easy to find, but it's not going to cost you anything either. And just a whole day on the North Shore, it's a completely different vibe from anything you're going to find in Waikiki or Honolulu. So it's always worth going up there just to check it out. Number 7, the Aloha Tower viewpoint. Aloha Tower is one of the most historic buildings in downtown Honolulu. It's been there forever. If you see a lot of the old black and white footage of Honolulu way back in the day, in the 30s and the 40s when there were all the GI station there, Aloha Tower is usually in those shots, and it's kind of cool to see, even though Honolulu is becoming very modern with the high-rise glass buildings, this is something that is very historic. It's right on the shore, and you can actually go to the top of it for free. It doesn't cost you anything to go up there, and it's a really great view, not just of the city and the Honolulu skyline, but also looking out to the ocean as well. Good place for whale watching too if you're there for the right time. Number 8 on the list, eating some street food in Chinatown in Honolulu. There are a lot of great restaurants and a lot of great food trucks in Chinatown, and just in Honolulu in general, you're gonna find a lot of really good food. Now, I will admit that some of the food trucks you'll find are not affordable. If you're going to some that are a little bit more famous, if it's the Giovanni shrimp truck, or there's a lot of things that have become very famous through Instagram, they're probably charging $14 or $15 for an entree, which is gonna be no different from going to a restaurant. But really good food, really good street food, and there are some affordable things if you can find them. Number 9 on the list, something that we looked forward to every day, just going for a drive. Just looking around, taking in the scenery. This is something that's not completely free because gasoline is very expensive on Oahu, and the rental car prices as well. You have to factor all of that in. But it is something that's not going to cost you anything in the moment, and you can really see a lot of amazing things. There's a lot of viewpoints that you can drive to that look out over the island, and there's just so much to see. It's an island of microclimate, so you're going to see the beaches, you're going to see the coastline, the rocky coast, all of that. But if you get towards more of the middle of the island, it's very jungly, and they did actually film Jurassic Park there, so there's a lot of Jurassic Park looking scenery that you're really going to enjoy. And if you get up into the mountains, it's going to be windy roads and very, very narrow lanes, so definitely be ready for that. But once you get past that, and it's really not that big of a deal, just driving slow and making sure you're paying attention. Once you get to those viewpoints and you're able to take all of that in, it's definitely worth it. The drive itself is an absolutely amazing activity and something that you don't have to worry about booking in advance, that you don't have to worry about paying extra for. And a lot of times you don't even have to pay for parking. There are a few exceptions to that rule, but it's definitely something that you can take in the entire island. It's not the biggest island. You can go all the way around, except for some areas that are military bases, but for the most part, you can drive all the way around this island, take it all in absolutely for free. Number 10 on the list, in downtown Honolulu, the Hawaii State Art Museum is definitely worth checking out, and there's actually a free guided walking tour that you can book. So this is something, again, that if you make sure you're there on the right day and make sure that you sign up for the right activity, it is free. You probably want to tip if you do have a tour guide that's very helpful and maybe even gives you some suggestions for restaurants and stuff around the island. It's always worth giving them a tip for sure, but besides that, there's no upfront cost, and it's something to definitely check out. There's a lot of cool museums on the island. Not all of them are free, and actually a few of them, the Polynesian Cultural Center in particular, are very expensive. But they're definitely worth checking out, and it's important to remember that there's a culture on Hawaii too. It's not just the beaches and the beautiful weather. There's a lot of fascinating museums and a lot of really cool information to take in. That's gonna wrap up our list of the 10 most affordable things to do on the island of Oahu. There are things when you visit this island that are just absolutely unavoidable when it comes to costs. When you're going out to a restaurant, it's gonna be likely very expensive. When you're going to do an activity like a helicopter ride or a private tour of an area, something like that, that's gonna cost you a pretty penny, unfortunately. But there are also very affordable things if you just kind of look into it. Even Googling free things to do in Oahu, there's things that you would never imagine that you would do before getting there that are actually very enjoyable. But hopefully this list was helpful for you. If you did enjoy it, make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps us out with our growth on YouTube. And thank you so much for watching. We had an amazing time in Hawaii. We're gonna have one more video kind of wrapping up the experience before we move on to our next location. Thanks again, and see you in the next one.